8 days ago, 4 astronauts splashed down in the Pacific Ocean after the most talked about space mission in a generation. People cried watching it live. Kids stayed up past their bedtimes. It was genuinely one of those moments where the whole world stopped and looked up at the sky together. And then about 5 minutes later, everyone thought the same thing. Wait, they didn't actually land though, did they? They flew around the moon. They took some incredible photographs. They broke the record for the furthest any human has ever traveled from Earth. And then they turned around and came straight home without once touching down on the surface. So what exactly is going on? When do we actually land on the moon? Why does it feel like we keep getting so close and then just not quite getting there? That is exactly what we are answering today, and I promise by the end of this video, it is all going to make complete sense. To understand when we're landing, you first need to understand something important, something that completely changes how you look at everything NASA is doing right now. Artemis is not Apollo. And I don't just mean that in an obvious, well, yes, it's a different program kind of way. I mean the entire philosophy is different, the goals are different, the whole approach is different, and once you get that, everything else clicks into place. Apollo was a race, pure and simple. The Soviets were winning the space race in the 1960s, and America was genuinely panicking about it. So they threw an almost incomprehensible amount of money at NASA and basically said, get to the moon first, do it fast, and don't embarrass us. And NASA delivered. 12 astronauts walked on the moon between 1969 and 1972. 12 people on another world. It was one of the greatest things humans have ever done. But then the race was won. The Soviets never made it. America celebrated, and almost immediately the money dried up and the whole program got canceled. Apollo 17 lifted off from the lunar surface in December 1972, and that was it. Nobody has been back since. 53 years of absolutely nothing. NASA looked at that history and made a decision. We are never doing that again. We are not going back to the moon just to visit, plant a flag, take some photos, and leave. This time, we are going back to stay. Permanently. A real base on the moon. Astronauts living up there for weeks and months at a time. A launch pad for eventually sending humans to Mars and beyond. That is a completely different goal, and it requires a completely different approach. Instead of sprinting and taking enormous risks to win a race, NASA is building this thing brick by brick. Every single mission exists to test something new and make the next mission safer, slow, methodical, and deliberate. Which is exactly why we haven't landed yet, and exactly why that is actually the right call. Okay, so let's quickly run through what has actually happened so far because it matters for understanding where we're going. Artemis 1 launched in November 2022 with absolutely zero crew on board. Just a capsule, some mannequins, and thousands of sensors recording every single reading. The whole point was to test the rocket and spacecraft without risking any human lives. Did the heat shield work? Did the navigation work? Could it survive the radiation of deep space? You find all of that out on the first flight with no people on board. And it worked, mostly perfectly. Artemis 2 launched April 1st this year with a real crew of 4 astronauts who flew around the moon and came home safely after 10 days. Again, no landing because that was never the point. The point was to test absolutely everything with actual humans on board in real deep space conditions for the very first time. And it worked too. There were a couple of small issues, a helium leak in the propulsion system and the space toilet broke, which is considerably less funny when you are stuck 250,000 miles from home, but the important stuff performed exactly as it needed to. 2 missions, 2 successes. The rocket works, the capsule works, the program is real, and it is moving forward. Now comes the part where it gets genuinely interesting. For years, everyone assumed Artemis 3 was the moon landing. It was right there in all the official NASA documents. Artemis 3, first crewed lunar landing since 1972, the moment everyone had been waiting for. After half a century, we were finally going back to the surface. Then, 6 weeks ago, quietly, while the whole world was distracted watching Artemis 2 get ready to launch, NASA changed the plan. Artemis 3 is not landing on the moon. Now, before you throw your phone across the room, hear me out, because the reason why is actually really sensible once you understand what the problem is. To land on the moon, you need 2 things that simply are not ready yet. You need a lunar lander and you need spacesuits. On the landers, NASA isn't building them this time around. They hired 2 private companies to do it instead. SpaceX is building a special lunar landing version of their Starship rocket. Blue Origin is building a vehicle called Blue Moon. Both of these things are enormous, incredibly complex, and critically, neither of them is ready. Blue Moon has never flown at all, not even once. Starship has done 11 test flights, but still hasn't reached orbit, hasn't demonstrated the in-space refueling it needs for a moon mission, and the lunar landing version has never been tested anywhere close to real conditions. On the spacesuits, NASA has been developing a brand new suit specifically designed for the harsh environment of the lunar surface. It handles extreme temperatures, it resists the razor-sharp lunar dust that would shred older suit materials. It gives astronauts way more mobility than anything that came before. It has been tested underwater in giant training pools. It has passed every internal review, but it has never once been worn in actual space. And you really do not want the first time your spacesuit gets tested in real space conditions to be while someone is standing on the moon with no way to get help. So NASA made the smart call. Use Artemis 3 to test all of it properly first. Artemis 3 launches in mid-2027. It stays in Earth orbit, much closer to home, much safer. The crew docks with both lunar landers and puts every single system through a full workout with real astronauts on board. Propulsion, life support, communications, docking, all of it. And they wear the new spacesuits in real space for the very first time. It is a dress rehearsal, the most important dress rehearsal in the history of human spaceflight. And it has to go well because what comes after it is the moment everyone has been building toward. Early 2028, that is when we land on the moon, Artemis 4, the first humans on the lunar surface since December 1972. More than 55 years between one set of human footprints and the next. Here is how it actually works. Before the crew even launches, NASA sends a lunar lander up to moon orbit on its own. It just sits there and waits. Then Orion launches with 4 astronauts, travels out to the moon, and docks with the lander already waiting in orbit. 2 of those 4 astronauts climb into the lander, undock, and head down to the surface. And where they're landing matters a lot. The target is the lunar South Pole, and this is not a random choice. Up near the South Pole, there are craters that are in permanent shadow, craters so deep that sunlight has literally never touched the bottom of them in billions of years. And inside those craters, scientists have confirmed there is water ice, billions and billions of tons of it just sitting there frozen in the dark. That water is a massive deal, because water can be split into hydrogen and oxygen, which means drinking water, which means air to breathe, and which means rocket fuel. The South Pole of the moon could eventually become a fueling station for missions going even deeper into space, Mars and beyond. So 2 astronauts land there. They spend about a week on the surface. They do at least 2 spacewalks. They set up experiments. They collect samples. They do science that simply cannot be done from orbit or from Earth. And then they climb back into the lander, launch back up to lunar orbit, dock with Orion, and come home. Early 2028. That is the answer. That is when we land. Here is the part that I genuinely cannot stop thinking about. Artemis 4 is not the destination. It is the starting gun. Later in 2028 comes Artemis 5, second moon landing. And this one is when construction begins. NASA starts building Artemis Base Camp, a real permanent outpost on the lunar surface near the South Pole. Actual structures, power systems, a pressurized rover the size of a small bus for exploring tens of kilometers away from the base without needing a spacesuit inside it. A surface habitat where astronauts eventually live for up to 2 months at a time. After that, roughly 1 mission per year, each one adding to the base, each one pushing further and staying longer, learning how to actually live on another world from scratch, how to grow food in low gravity, how to handle medical emergencies with no hospital nearby, how to build things that survive temperature swings between 250 degrees above zero in sunlight and 280 degrees below zero in shadow. And after the moon, Mars. Genuinely, that is where all of this leads. Everything happening right now from Artemis 1 through to Artemis Base Camp is building the knowledge and the technology and the experience that eventually puts humans on Mars. Apollo showed us we could get to the moon. Artemis is showing us we can live there. And from there, honestly, the sky is not even the limit anymore.